My name is Damien. I know a dark elf, a woman, from my dreams. Everything else is blank, emptiness. I thought, perhaps, freeing myself from the Illithid would knock loose whatever was blocking my mind. I was mistaken. I fear, given the visions of holes piercing my brain, that what is lost will not return. Perhaps it is merely the influence of the worm within. Keeping a journal might help maintain something of who I am, or who I was, or at least it'll keep me from getting worse. I awoke aboard a ship flying through the sky. Damage had wrecked much of the area, likely breaking some mechanism in the pod, kept me in stasis. I easily ripped through the flesh of the container, took stock of my surroundings. I grasped at my memories. I spoke already of everything I could remember, but I didn't speak of a belief I had, something that wasn't solid enough to be knowledge, not quite, but a feeling I knew to be true, a faith, and what, I don't know. I've decided now, given this dark elf I'd later learn was called a drow, I've given myself to Loth. Not confident that this is correct, but there's little use in second-guessing now. I'll follow her and take from her whatever I can to survive, to thrive, to get vengeance on whatever did this to me. My surroundings were oddly organic. It felt wrong. Bodies were scattered throughout the room, all dead. I was the only one to survive. This felt right. My mind attempted to wander, to reach out to something familiar. Would the flesh of the room, of the equipment, both broken and whole, yield to a blade? Would it bleed? Perhaps I would have sated my curiosity, but I had but a glorified club. Bruises are boring. Blood is intoxicating. I suppose it's fortunate I didn't have a blade. I have no desire to ponder my circumstances, not then anyway. The next room held a trove of knowledge, centuries of history of the planes and gods of Abertorial. Approaching these brains, implanted everything of my own. I have yet to internalize everything, and I trust I won't need to. It's how I learned of the Drow and of Loth. At least now I can have a name to give to this abstract concept of faith. A voice pled for help. It was a brain, somehow living within the skull of a dead human. It claimed to be a new life, a servant of my captors. I crushed the skull, releasing it from its prison. I imagined carving my fingers into its fleshy body, forming holes, watching its blood pool beneath me. I forced my hands to lower the creature, denying my instincts. For now, we needed to get to the helm to escape the hells. Its name was Us. The worm in my brain reacted, the larva of an illithid attempting to make me its host, its pupa, its egg. It is only a matter of time, days at most, before I succumb, before I become something I am not, or was not. Must be responsible for my lack of memories. Thinking on such matters would do nothing. First to the helm, then to safety. Then I could deal with the worm. As I left the room, the extent of the damage was clear. What should have been a corridor was demolished. The tentacles of the living ship attempted to fend dragons from destroying what remained of its crew. Below, army of devils marched to war. A Gith attempted to slaughter me coming from behind. The worm in my brain stopped her, speaking with the worm in hers. As I recognized she was in my situation, she recognized that I was in hers. She, like us, required my assistance in getting to the helm. We ran into both invaders, Devil's Spawn, and Illithid defenses, thralls. Someone from another pod, undestroyed, asked for help. The Gith was in favor of ignoring the captive, that there was no sense in dying for a stranger. I saw no harm in spending a few moments to release a captive, especially one that could prove useful, at least as a distraction. I sought out a switch or panel, and despite her complaints, the Gith didn't leave us behind. There was a socket on her pod. Attempting to smash it did nothing. Further in the ship was another pod, with a rune powering it. An unconscious woman slept within, a liability. The rune was simple to remove and fit the socket of the other woman's pod. The Illithid within my mind reached out, forcing the pod open. The woman fell to the floor of the ship. She was wary, not of me, nor of the brain following us, but of the Gith. I felt the parasite within her head. She saw it in her best interest and ours to help each other escape. She introduced herself as Shadowheart, grabbed some device that she claimed was nothing important, and prepared herself to fight for freedom. The four of us approached the helm, and the Gith attempted to take control. Shadowheart fought back against her commands. We entered the helm, which was similarly damaged as the corridors behind. An Illithid fought a devil, much larger than the imps we'd seen so far, and assumed us thralls. We were ordered to connect the nerves of the ship, allowing escape. Shadowheart ran forward to the controls as the rest of us fought off waves of devil spawn pouring from outside. As she connected the synapses together, a dragon flew into the damaged gap and spewed forth a gout of flame. Her corpse flew from the ship as we vanished. I woke outside of hell, falling to the ground, head first. I should have died. Force halted my fall, inches from impact. It gently lowered me to the beach. My memories are still a void. There are numerous corpses around, not captives from the ship. Something within me, something that feels alien, delights in all this death, feels comfortable. Must be the parasite making a home of my mind. The part of myself that I know is me shouts for vengeance, for payback to be dealt to those who left me to death or slavery. Onwards. The woman I saved from the pod, Shadowheart, lay mere steps from my own spot on the beach. I thought her dead. I saw her die on the ship from dragon flames. The artifact she seemed so intent on saving miraculously landed in her outstretched palm. I thought to satiate my curiosity and reach for it, but she awoke and instantly grasped it, hiding it amongst her person as she eyed me, suspicious. I claimed to be checking on her vitals to see if she still took breath. She did not know why we lived, but she also didn't seem to care, only that we did manage to survive. I did not disagree. Even as my mind turned back to the memory of the drow and of a voice, Shadowheart wished to stay together. I did agree. It was worth having a companion, even one I knew so little about, in an unknown area with unknown threats. She looked weak. I doubt she could succeed at any attempted betrayal. Even so, she was a second set of eyes. I tried to move forward. She stopped me to thank me for my actions in rescuing her from the pod. Perhaps her suggestion to travel together was more sentimental than practical. She likely thought she would be dead without my assistance. The pod would have probably proved a safer vessel to the ground than having little more than wind as a cushion. The wreckage of the ship was nearby, and a handful of intellect devourers scampered about. They fled into the ship as they sensed our presence. I stole into the darkness to investigate further, but Shadowheart stopped me, wrapping me in the shadows of her goddess. Perhaps she would prove more useful than a mere second set of hands. Corpses of both the Illithid and their slaves were scattered throughout. Shadowheart's supposition may have been correct. She could have been among the dead without my intervention. We could have all been among the dead in hell had she remained trapped. She was the one to force the ship to safety. Relative safety. The intellect devourers waited in ambush. I attempted a reversal. I failed. One of the three attempted to bite into my flesh with its tentacles. I felt power suffuse my body. The lightning that had built up in response to the threat channeled into the creature on contact, frying the synapses of the gigantic brain. While Shadowheart took on her own foe, I rushed forward and felt an alien power fill my body, aching for release. Law filled my soul with pure pain, and I unleashed it on the creature. It fell to the ground, dead. While it felt good and proper to accept the power into my soul, something felt off. Perhaps I'm uncomfortable serving as the conduit of another. I do not like to be a mere servant. I need to be something more. Is that what I was before? A servant? Was I satisfied with that? One of the Illithids still lived. Its breaths were weak, and its blood pooled beneath its crumpled form. It would die soon, on its own. I felt a compassion for the creature, a need to aid it, to heal it. I noticed something, and my thoughts shifted to self-hatred of the weakened, pathetic, mortal creature that I was. It was all an attempt to distract from my own growing malice of the creature. It was in vain. Even the suggestion that my thoughts were other than my own did little more than fill me with rage. The Illithid met the disgust I offered as I fought off its control with undisguised loathing of its own. I left it, bleeding on the floor. Should have thought it would suffer a slow, painful death, an ignoble end perfectly suited to its life. And I felt its despair well as it realized it would receive neither help nor mercy. Its attention unfocused as the only thing that filled its consciousness was its labored breathing, its weakening breathing. I smashed its skull in a single strike, opening the horrible creature's mind to the world. Both its body and mind were drenched in the juices of viscera and gore. Sweet, delicious juices, a perfume of perfection. Despite how it started, today is going to be a good day.